Our speaker today will be my business partner, Jochen Hager. Jochen, would you introduce yourself, please?
Thank you, Kristen. Good morning, everybody. My name is Jochen Hager. I am pleased to be your presenter today when talking about a praxis report about migrating from an OpenText LiveLink system to a KGS ContentServer4Storage system. We will highlight different aspects of a large-scale migration of an archive link compliant from one archive link compliant archive to another. And I'm happy to be with you today. This particular topic is something I've been engaged with for over 20 years now. Starting out working on SAP ArchiveLink and very early SAP releases, implementing archiving solutions that are connected to SAP, and working and consulting with many clients around the world. Today, I'm a business partner with solutionXchg, and Kristen Gerling and I provide products and services to the SAP document management and data archiving community. And in that context, we're presenting today's real life migration report on a migration project our team has done a few months ago, and we're going to highlight what we accomplished, what the challenges were, how we fared throughout the project, and hopefully you can deduct some good tips and tricks from it and get some best practices out of this presentation. Let me start with setting the scene and talking a little bit about archiving and how the landscape is divided up. SAP archiving, data and document archiving, has been around for over 20 years. Customers today fall typically in two categories. There are the ones that are currently using an SAP archiving solutions and the ones that are not yet using an SAP archiving solution, either because they haven't started archiving at all, or they're just implementing SAP, or they have standalone solutions that are not yet integrated completely into SAP. Within those that are using products, those customers fall into two categories: those that use an enterprise content management or ECM solution with SAP connectivity. In other words, a solution that is actually built to manage all documents in an enterprise, and as a sub functionality has the capability to hook up to SAP. Or a lot of customers use Quick Start SAP archiving only products. For example, the SAP Content Server is a native quick start solution that's available from SAP. Looking at the first category, those ECM solutions, these particular solutions, like the one customer example we're discussing here, the customer was using a large ECM solution. And what we have seen is that many customers are out there that brought in a solution like that. The solution was oversized for the actual needs, and especially true for solutions that were implemented a few years ago. The technology was built in a way, and that the products are built in a way that they're strong client server products, meaning you have a database, you have large storage components. You size these systems typically for needs down the road. You put the system in today, you anticipate future need, and you build it out and say, hey, I have that many documents per year annual growth, and I'm sizing the system for at least 5 to 10 years out. What happens in these situations is that the system is actually highly oversized in comparison to the actual needs from the beginning. Then the anticipated company rollout never happens, and you're still on technology that you brought in, or companies brought in a long time ago, and that technology is based on old architecture because modern technology, modern software technology is never at a standstill, and systems that were put in years ago and cost hundreds of thousands of dollars now can be purchased for a fraction of the cost with more features and less administration and so on. So companies that started out on early on enterprise content management solutions are most likely today missing out on cost savings and might not even be future ready because they are on an older architecture. And older architecture um, requires complex administration because you're administering a client server architecture with multiple components. There is a significant hardware support fees. There's most likely a database maintenance cost. That's associated. Plus, you pay maintenance for those more expensive solutions that were put in a few years ago. And all these drivers actually were eliminating all of these four drivers were the main drivers for the customer example we're reviewing here. The project we're talking about today is a large Fortune 5000 customer with international business operations. A decision was made to uh, slim down the IT operation. IT was partially outsourced to India. Uh, there was a lot of cost pressure on management, and the cost pressure prompted to switch out the enterprise content management archiving solution that was used just for one particular purpose, and that was for SAP document management and archiving. And what the business case actually what drove the business case was significant savings on annual maintenance costs compared when comparing the new product that was brought in compared to the legacy product that was bought close to 15 years ago. Hardware cost was eliminated, hardware maintenance was eliminated, operations cost was reduced, database cost was reduced, storage cost was reduced because the new archive could actually compress the documents on storage, and with that, the overall advantage for the client was a lower total cost of ownership. Um, so looking at what we can really do here, we can bring in a new system that is up to par, is really built up to today's standards, taking full use of virtualization, taking full use of the latest and greatest SAP ArchiveLink interface technology. We brought in a migration approach that was very fast and highly risk reduced. We managed to get significant savings realized by repurposing or reducing hardware, by reducing the maintenance fees, by eliminating databases, and so on. So a lot of very positive aspects for an enterprise overall. And combined all that with the approach to outsource some of the technology, it was an ideal situation to engage in that project. So here again, in a graphical point of view, traditional system, SAP ArchiveLink integrated, an ArchiveLink module, a storage underlying is Jukebox, NetApp, ECM, or Sun, then typically a database. That's the scenario we found. And we replaced that scenario with a much simpler architecture, reusing the storage that was available, but bringing down the complexity of the technology, eliminating the database in the mix, and putting in a much slimmer um, architecture that was driving a lot of cost savings going forward. So why can't a content server for storage? It's one of the best available solutions out there, specifically developed to satisfy SAP archiving requirements. Has a very unique approach, very smart technology to cope with the highest performance requirements. It's fully certified for SAP ArchiveLink as well as for BCILM, and it's a best fit solution because the whole system was developed with 100% compliance to SAP standards in mind. The solution is fully certified um, for different aspects of the overall package, um, and um, and with that target archive in mind, we started the project. So the accomplishments in the project were that we were able to migrate 29 million documents, the whole universe of documents that was collected over the course of 15 years from all different kinds of SAP applications in less than 8 weeks. And that is 8 weeks is counting not the preparation time, but the true moving document time frame that was accomplished in a total of 8 weeks with automated day and night migration procedures that were constantly running on 4 virtual servers. So a lot of redundancy in there, and the capability to move a large amount of documents. What we also accomplished is close to zero business impact, and I'll explain a little later why that is possible and how that is possible. And we were able to cut the annual maintenance cost in half for that particular customer. And that alone justified the project efforts, because we were saving about the equivalent of one full-time person through just cutting the maintenance costs, not even talking about what other savings were possible by slimming down the architecture and making the solution more easily manageable, even remotely manageable, through the outsourcing organization in India in that particular case. Other improvements during the changeover: added security. We realized while we were doing a full system analysis that World Wide Web access for customers was potentially not fully secured. We were able to remedy that through the project. We were able to switch to VMware from a HPUX business architecture setup. With that, also eliminating cost and complexity in the server room. And we verified over 20 business applications and made sure they would work with the new archiving solution. Now, you might wonder why that actually works. If you look at this diagram, you can see that on top we have FI, CO, PP, MM, SD, HR, all the SAP modules that sit on top of the SAP basis system, which then has incorporated ArchiveLink, and SAP ArchiveLink then talks to the underlying archiving system. And because of that shielding of the archive underneath, it is actually technically possible to exchange the underlying archive solution without any impact, or without any impact to the end user. Actually, there might be a slight technical impact depending on how clean the company has implemented some custom applications, and I'll talk a little bit about that later when we talk about challenges. But through the KGS ContentServer4Storage and through its technology, we were able to hook up the new archiving solution as well as the legacy archive at the same time, so the end users never really noticed that anything changed. Well, of course, we informed them, and there's some visible changes, which we will talk about in a minute, but the actual business processes did not change at all for any of the end users. So some more process detail. We did a full validation of all the migrated documents against SAP to prove completeness. So at the end of the project, we collected all the document IDs of all the documents we migrated and compared them to the documents that are known to SAP and made sure that we actually had every document. So it's a built-in compliance um, in the project methodology. We were able to reduce the required storage space with the new solution by doing an on-the-fly compression during the migration, and that saved a considerable amount of storage compared to the existing legacy archive. We chose, there's a couple of ways how you can orchestrate a migration. You can either set up the new system in parallel and have redirect all the documents into the new system, or you can migrate everything over first and and then do a switch over once you know that you have everything captured, and only at that point all the new documents flow into the new archive. So we decided to go with the later approach, not a parallel existence of both, but in this particular case we chose a big bang to go live with a cutover weekend, which was done on a Sunday and actually worked well. We changed out architecture from an HPUX on physical servers to Red Hat Unix on VMware. Um, that had the effect that no future server maintenance cost was necessary, and we also eliminated, or you could, in this particular case, and it's a technicality more than anything else, there still was an Oracle license that what is being kept in place, but many technical setups allow also to eliminate the Oracle license in after migrating documents. We had a full service migration project team. We brought SAP skills, we brought OpenText skills, we brought archiving skills, we brought KGS skills, platform and database skills. So we had a variety of people as part of the project team, and for each phase, we brought the right talent that was experienced in all the products and was very knowledgeable about SAP and SAP document and data archiving functionality. In total, 29 million documents were migrated with about three times the number of components. Each document might have multiple components, sometimes a document is divided up in individual pages. There's notes components. There might be other document type specific components that increase the number of documents. All those documents were migrated within that 8-week time frame. We had a limited storage space on the target drive, so we actually moved documents from a EMC Centera. We pulled it from an EMC Centera and archived it to another logical unit on that same Centera, kind of an in and out. It was necessary to actually move the data. That has some questions on some reasons within the way documents are stored in the various archiving solutions, because the document storage actually is proprietary to the archiving product. So it was necessary to actually pull every single document and push it out in a new format. We that was a challenge because we were limited by the amount of storage we had, so we couldn't overrun it. We had to make sure, and we had to estimate that we wouldn't consume more storage than we would have available. At the same time, we knew we would end up with a full duplicate of all the documents in the archive at that peak point where we had everything migrated, but the old system was still active. So we had at some point 200% of the data on storage before we were able to reset the actual storage and get rid of the the legacy documents. One of the challenges we had to face is that we had very limited administrative access to SAP, to Oracle, to VM servers, and to other, and no VPN access to the system. It's more a technical problem that was due to the IT switchover and to changing responsibilities within the customer environment. But that definitely presented a challenge for us while doing the project. The complete project was done while the customer was conducting a business process outsourcing initiative and was switching IT outsourcing providers. They were working with one provider in India and switched to another one. So it was a very challenging environment with limited access to the project sponsor. And our project manager, who worked with us on a day-to-day basis, had 3 different line managers during the project implementation. You can understand how that added complexity to the project. So those were some of the challenges we had to overcome. But in the end, we successfully managed, and we were able to complete the project to full customer satisfaction. Let me talk a little bit about the migration and how we reduced the risk with migration and how we actually managed to do the migration as fast as we did. Here's a little diagram, a little chart, how the system was actually set up. There, in one spot, you have the SAP system that starts and issues all retrieval commands and pushes out the documents. And we have the source archiving system, in this case, legacy OpenText system that was about to be replaced. And then we set up a KGS ContentServer4Storage system, which was the target archiving system where all the documents should go. So in the middle, we set up a cache migration server that was functioning as a proxy. So SAP, when retrieving a document, didn't retrieve the document straight from the legacy source system, but instead we redirected retrieval to the cache migration server that was now in the middle and has some proxy functionality built into it. And that redirection can be done with a simple change in a customizing configuration table in SAP. Now, if SAP retrieves a document, the retrieval request goes to the cache migration server. That cache server determines whether the document is already on the target system or has to be pulled from the source system. So it knows, it tries one first, it tries the future system first. If it can't find it there, it goes back to the legacy system and then serves up the document. All that happens in milliseconds, so the end user never notices where the document actually comes from. At the same time, the cache migration servers can run in the background and pull unnoticed to the end user documents from the source system and pump them directly to the target system without impacting SAP at all. So there's no performance degradation on SAP. The data is not pumped through SAP. It's channeled through the network. And of course, we made sure that the network design was built in a way that there was an effective and efficient pipe between the two systems. And it was the migration could happen quickly. Now, the design is built in a way that we actually staged and had set up 4 of these. Only one was working as a proxy, but we had 4 archive servers or migration servers that were pumping documents in parallel from the source to the target system. And the only limiting factor here is actually the source system and how fast you can pull documents from the source system in our experience. Now, let me talk a little bit about the difficulties, some redirections we had to take, and what we would do better, what you could do better here. And I promised I would not only talk about what went well and what we accomplished, but also about some of the difficulties. And the next 2 slides here talk about those difficulties. One of the difficulty was that initially we had planned to use the SAP viewer and a free of charge viewing component SAP delivers. But we noticed somewhat painfully that because the client did not have a unified PC workstation environment out there, the SAP viewer didn't perform as intended, didn't have the capability to display all the document types we wanted to display. And sometimes, because of difficulties um, uh, with plugins that were necessary, uh, provided challenges that, to an extent, that at some point we decided we would go with a different viewing tool, and we decided to bring in the KGS content viewer instead of continuing with the SAP viewer. Um, Another challenge we had to overcome is that while there were over 20 business scenarios out there, which as I showed before, weren't really impacted, but we still had to retest those business scenarios. And we had the challenge that we had no clear process owners. Some of these scenarios have been set up 10, 15 years ago, and they were working in a daily use environment, but there were no test plans available and no clear process owners. So in many cases, we had to do a lot of fact finding, find the right people within the departments to verify the scenarios after the switchover and make sure that everything works. And everything worked, but for a few technicalities where developers over the years had used proprietary access to documents in the legacy archiving system, going around standard ArchiveLink retrieval capabilities and programming hard retrieval against the legacy system we were replacing. And those had to be adjusted. There were 2 or 3 instances which we found where links were broken and coding had to be adjusted. Again, no impact on the business scenarios themselves, but a technicality that had to be overcome, and those changes had to be made. We also decided to do a compression on the fly, and that created the challenge because some of the document types were old formats and not all of them converted nicely, and we ran into 1 or 2 gotchas while we did that. We've also found out that documents were stored in different TIFF formats over the years. There were a few grayscale documents mixed in, white on black instead of black on white documents, and some of these things just came out of the woodwork when we did the migration, and and some of that is avoidable, but not all of it can be avoided. Some of these things need to be taken care of as they pop up. We also had to rework the scanning platforms. We brought in a Kofax Express scanning environment, and the scan staff had to be retrained on it. That required some adjustment on behalf of that team, and we noticed that that also presented a challenge. So if you do something like that and you bring in a new scanning solution, make sure you plan some time that people can actually adjust to the new environment, and you need to help understand that you're replacing a process that might have been in place 5, 10 years, and now they need to use with new software, and there's certain resistance there, reluctance to adapt, and that those things need to be overcome. What we would do better is we would do a more thorough investigation of all the document types, so that we have a better understanding what formats we're actually migrating. We did a cursory review, but because some of those strange formats created problems for us, and problems at a time when we couldn't really manage them effectively because we were working against the deadline, that created uh, some high pressure work on our end, which we would do and plan out better the next time. We also would use an external database to track all the migrated documents between the 2 systems, actually 3 systems, the SAP system, the legacy system, and the new target system, and to consolidate all that. Because of the size, 29 million documents, actually a database is needed to do that. You can't do that in spreadsheets anymore. It's too many entries. But that's something we have in our toolkit, and that's what we would apply going forward in the next project. Also, we would request a more fully featured work environment, VPN access, email access, PC access, access to servers and databases, which we partially got in the end, but it was somewhat of a tedious procedure, and sometimes it delayed resolving issues for us because we just didn't have the right system access. And as always, that's important if you do a technical switchover project as that. And because there was nobody who fully understand the business processes, next time we work closely with the customer ahead of time and make sure that the business processes are well documented, and at least documented to a point that we have a scenario how we can test the business processes in a before and after scenario. Just to make sure that everything works correctly, because at the end of the day, it's important that the business is almost not impacted at all. So that concludes the project-specific review.